So I almost broke my leg yesterday doing a bit of parkour.
Ankle.
Shin.
Ooh. Shin? What the fuck?
Oh man, I'm alright though, I'm good.
Hence why I am sitting on a chair and not squatting on the floor how I usually would when doing this video. But today I want to talk to you about the Ido Portal method and whether you can gain muscle mass from doing the Ido Portal method. I received a similar question about this a while back and I thought I would address it. Now, first we must discuss what the Ido Portal method really is. Now, based on the interviews and the information that Ido has shared, the Ido Portal method very simply is a generalization of your movement practice. For example, this can include parkour, the locomotion kind of stuff that I teach, similarly on this channel, weightlifting, gymnastic rings, and tumbling. It could be dance and weightlifting and mobility training. It's essentially taking multiple disciplines and tying them into one. What Ido teaches in his workshops and probably on his online training and things like that, they are going to be specific to firstly, your goals, I assume, if it's in the online coaching, but it's going to be more specific to what Ido specializes in. Things such as capoeira and his timing, kind of work like that. But if you were to go to perhaps a dance teacher who is qualified under the Ido Portal method, their teaching would be more centered around dance principles, perhaps. So the Ido Portal method is not simply something that is set in stone. From many interviews, we can very simply see that it's essentially a generalized practice of movement. So real quick, my Patreon link is in the description below. It offers things like monthly ebooks based around calisthenics and movement, personalized workout plans and nutrition consultation and diet analysis, all at a really discounted price just for you. So check that out and yeah, thank you. Can it build mass? So what we need to remember for muscle mass, there are a few key principles. And the main ones people kind of know and that people use is the intensity of a workout or physical activity, the volume, and the regularity. They're kind of like, some big three. So the intensity, very simply, is talking about how intense the work can be, or it could be the time between sets. If you reduce your time, the intensity increases. However, if you were to increase the weight, the intensity would also increase. So there's a few ways you can do that. The regularity of your workout, very simply, is what it seems. 2 days a week, 3 days a week. The more you increase that, you will see an increase in perhaps muscle mass if that's what you're training for. And of course, the volume is the total amount of volume, for example, you have lifted or you have ran, etc., etc. So these are the big kind of three factors when we need to look at when kind of talking about building muscle mass and improving your physical performance. Now, straight up, I'm going to say that the Ido Portal method is not going to be as good as building mass as bodybuilding is, as bodybuilding training is, as isolating the muscle. The best thing you can do for building mass is isolation work. That means getting in the gym and isolating the muscle. Tricep extensions, bicep curls, things like this. And that's very simply because if you take a compound exercise, take the bent over row with a barbell, for example. You're bent over, you're doing the pulls. Yes, you're working your bicep and your back. But if your goal is to grow your bicep, doing a compound exercise like bent over rows is not going to be as effective as very simply doing bicep curls. And the reason for this is bicep curls is isolating the muscle, whereas a bent over row, it splits the load between your back, your lats, your scap, stuff like that, and the bicep. So by isolating the muscle, you can more effectively put it under the strain and range of motion you need to to optimize its growth. So when we look at the Ido Portal method, you can isolate muscle and do a lot of isolated muscle work. However, it's much more focused around generalized movement. And the reason for this is to improve your quality of movement, your health, your mobility, and your overall strength. Ido very specifically talks about this practice not being to increase the aesthetics of your body, but more so to increase the functionality and the quality of your movement. So in no way is it going to be more effective than bodybuilding, and the focus of the Ido Portal method isn't to build an aesthetic body. However, it will build you mass based on how you practice it. I see people who are practicing the Ido Portal method or movement generalization as a whole, who don't tend to do much Olympic weightlifting or weightlifting at all. They more so focus on the floreo locomotion things, and bodyweight exercises, some stuff like that. And that's not going to be as effective as someone who follows a method but also does Olympic weightlifting and maybe a little isolation work as well. So there's no yes or no, it's going to build you more mass, less mass. It very simply depends on what you do within the method. But let me tell you, if you are doing floor work, you will build strength and body control. If you aren't very conditioned before you're doing this work, then you will gain a bit of mass, you'll get a bit more cut, simply because you're increasing the work you do from your standard workload. However, if you are looking to increase your mass and participate, do this Ido Portal method or this kind of movement training, then I would say work on your compounds. Even if you don't like lifting weights, maybe find a trainer, look into it and start doing things like the deadlift, some full range of motion squats, some weighted dips, do some calisthenic work. There are so many benefits to it. And this kind of work where you are doing kind of weighted compound movements, some even isolated work, Olympic weightlifting too. This stuff is going to help you build more mass by far compared to things like the floor flow. The floor flow is it can be essentially like an intense kind of yoga, obviously depending on what yogic practices you do. But it's not like you see jacked, yoga practitioners walking around, because they don't focus on volume, intensity, isolating specific muscle groups and things like that. So you can't expect to be doing floor flow to build mass. Very simply, go a more traditional route. Do the compounds, do calisthenics, add some weight on there, go for reps and sets if that is your goal. However, if you don't enjoy that and it's not sustainable for you, you will build strength and body control doing the non-weighted stuff and non-weightlifting, but you won't build as much mass by far. And you'll probably come to a plateau maybe a year or so into your work, kind of aesthetic-wise, mass-wise and stuff like that. But yeah, just thought I'd share a few ideas like that, answer that question for you. And yeah, I'll do some more videos on kind of how to build mass with different movements, different practices, other than just, the standard kind of weighted calisthenics or this or that. Make it a bit more movement centered as well. So that'll be an interesting one. But yeah, let me know what you think down below, any experiences you've had. I mean, I've been doing movement generalization for a good while now, and I've gained about 15, 16 kilograms in the past 2 years from doing these things. And I do deadlift, I do squat, I do weighted dips, and I do calisthenics, along with, parkour and the kind of floor stuff I do. But yeah, I'll make a different video about that. And that's essentially it. I'll see you in the next video. Peace.